morning. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. And Eileen, thank you so much for hanging out with us again. If you guys aren't familiar with her, she was just with us about 2 months ago, a month and a half for a teach back, and she's been a member for a long time, and she's just been a huge resource. So this is definitely her area of expertise. She's done some work with Cross too as well. So I'm so excited that you're hanging out with us for the next hour. So today our topic is onboarding. So we're talking about building better onboarding with retention in mind. So onboarding starts long before the new hire accepts the job. It's the discussions with your team, interviewing, thinking about the right culture fit, your processes. It really is a strategic system with the goal of increasing staff engagement. So when you get in, it's going from getting a new hire on board and turning them into a top-notch team player. So today we are just tailoring everything around that. We've tried to narrow it down to the 3 main categories. And so Eileen and I will alternate and really was just how do we migrate them into a new hire, into a company member. This is how you have a high-performing culture. The carrot of having a job is just not enough. Employees need a purpose. They need to feel connection. And if you don't do it right and get it right in the beginning, it will go down the drain. Otherwise, you're just in a cycle of hire, lose, and hire. And so I think everybody has experienced that with COVID. So our role today for Eileen and I is we are here to facilitate, talk about what's working, what's not working. It's a casual conversation. We will take notes so that you guys can have hard copy and you'll have the recording, but it really is about just sharing conversation, questions, ideas, horror stories, whatever. We'll may get weird, it probably will, but we like that stuff here. So we want you to think of the next 55 minutes like a buffet. Most people don't eat everything at a buffet. We don't expect you to take everything and do something with everything you've learned. Some things you may not want to do. They might not apply. You might not be in that role yet. That's fine. Just move on. You can always have this as a resource later if things change. So the chat box, like I mentioned, I put the sign-in link in there. Feel free to raise your hand, you speak freely. We do ask that during your first part of speaking, if you could just briefly just give your name, where you're from, what city, maybe the size of your firm, and if you're responsible for onboarding. So just those, and you can also just throw that in the chat box. That'll just give a little context for everybody else here. So with that, I think let's take it away to the first topic, which Eileen's going to facilitate. So thank you.
Okay, great. Do you want me to bring into that first slide then?
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So onboarding to me is 3 kind of steps. There is the prep that happens before the person arrives. Then there's their first day, first week. And then really it extends through their first 3 to 6 months at the firm throughout training and making sure that they are up to speed and it doesn't end on the first day. In terms of the prep and pre-onboarding, as Brittany mentioned, we do have a handout that we'll send around at the end to all attendees that has a pretty comprehensive checklist. But one of the first things I want to ask about is what documents do you have in your welcome packet? Assuming that you have some type of a welcome packet for your new team members. If people could put in the chat kind of what their thoughts are there. Do you have a welcome packet? Maybe is their first question. Right.
And if you've gotten away with not having one, how did you manage that? I need to know. And also everybody can speak too if you don't want to use the chat. This is just live engagement.
Staff directory, yeah, great. Okay. Excellent. And then one of the other questions is, do you have an online portal to complete that welcome packet, or are these documents that people receive on the day that they start? Swag, staff directory, map of the office. That's great. Pictures. Love that. That's awesome. Great. Okay. So some other things that may come up as well are things like employee handbook, your tax forms that that person has to fill out, direct deposit, anything regarding insurance and benefits, as well as if this person that is being hired has professional licensure certification. We want to make sure that we're capturing that and what their expiration dates are, so that that's part of the company record and we can keep tabs on all of that as well. Great. Okay, yeah, this is awesome.
then-
Employee manual, handbook,
we've-
seating charts.
We've got just all the basics, but then like I have one where it's just like a kind of a more personal one where it will just say like, okay, what's your shirt size? What's your favorite football team? Do you have allergies? Are you vegan or gluten-free? Like just like kind of those things. Do you like to be recognized in public or private? Like just like one form that has that, just so you can kind of get to know them a little bit more outside
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Those are great. And I know a lot of companies also will keep track of birthdays and celebrate birthdays, or celebrate people's work anniversaries, because that's something that tends to go overlooked. Birthdays get a lot of attention, but I think celebrating somebody's work anniversary is really nice as well, just to recognize their longevity with the team, because not everybody might know how long that person has been there, especially if the person was there before they were. Great.
Teresa includes an evacuation plan, which I love.
Okay, like that. Yep. Work from home contract, harassment
Yeah.
policy. Yep, all those things.
That's so
Awesome. That's great. Another thing that I typically have done is sending an email out to all the staff to introduce the new person, so they have a little bit of a heads up of who the person is that's coming. Typically we'll send out a short bio, maybe just something from their LinkedIn or from their resume, and a little bit about where they're coming from, as well as what types of projects or what type of role they're going to be moving into, so that the rest of the team has an idea of who this person is before they start. Great. Okay. And then always send an email as well to the new hire, introducing them to the firm, maybe sending them some documents in advance, giving them an idea as to how to get to the office, where they need to park, if there's public transit, if there's bike share or something like that. I like to give them all that information as well. And then a list of some of the people they'll be meeting with their first day. So as director of operations, maybe they were meeting with somebody with finance. It gives them an opportunity also to look those people up and learn a little bit about them before they come into the office, which is always kind of nice. It's a lot of new names and faces on that first day. And then in terms of some of the other onboarding, pre-onboarding prep steps, there are a whole host of other things to be done. IT setup is a huge component, not only getting a computer for them, but getting all the software loading up all of their accounts, setting up password managers, CAD, Revit, timekeeping software. I mean, it takes me probably a day to get all of this stuff set up, because even though the IT team in a lot of cases will create the accounts, they still have to get signed into. And depending on the scenario, I'll either sit with the person on their first day as they log into each program, or if it's possible, I'll log in and set everything up for them before they arrive, because it can take like 4 hours to get through all of those different sign-ins and creating the passwords and click, it's just kind of a giant.
I see Carrie going, yes.
Right. It takes a huge amount of time, right?
Oh yeah.
Great. Okay, and then document retention policy, Revit file maintenance, folder maintenance best practices. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about what that first day looks like for the new hire, because we talked a lot about some of that prep pre-onboarding. Is there anything I missed on the pre-onboarding? IT setup.
Yeah, I was
payroll. Oh, and then also letting anybody who did not get the position
I think you're freezing, Eileen. I'm sure. Hopefully if she stays on.
Nope.
There we go. So is anybody using E-Verify? So what's everybody's using?
Yeah, we run
Oh.
everybody through E-Verify.
Yeah. Anybody not using it? No, they do some great training on their website too. So they have webinars like 2 or 3 times a month. Looks like Eileen's still frozen. Okay, she got kicked out. So good thing we have 2 facilitators. We planned for it. Does anybody have or use employee equipment inventory lists? Like, so when in your paperwork, do you have, when you give them company equipment, especially like working from home, you guys have any documents you have them sign for the file for assets? Oops. Eileen, can you hear us?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you. Sorry,
cool,
my
cool.
internet decided to die right in the middle of this. Thanks.
No worries. We were just waiting. So I think that was the gist of the, so I don't know, did we touch also, I was just curious for everybody about an online portal. So I didn't see anything in the comments. So what is everybody doing in terms of the process of the paperwork and the welcome packet? Are we still doing paper? Are you guys putting the server location? Do you have an online vendor? Like, I'd love to know what people are doing. Google Forms.
Alina said her development team created a portal. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, let's.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so it lives on our intranet.
Okay.
And it is sort of a section that they have on there, and forgive me because I'm not too much of a development software person, but yeah, so it's pretty neat. Like the first few days that you get hired, it's sort of a directory connected to the employee directory that we have on our intranet. And so, like I mentioned in my message, there is some basic questions about where you work, your skills, your sort of work experience,
Yeah.
any licenses that you have across, like, if you have them in multiple states. And then they all get plugged into this sort of form that gets sent to you at the beginning when you start with us. And then it goes to your supervisor. They review everything, make sure everything looks good. And then they just blast it off, and it actually automatically sends it to every single one of our offices. I mean, we are pretty large. In New York, we're about over 250 now. So yeah, it's pretty intimidating once you see the whole list of, everyone from the West Coast to the East Coast who receives that email. But it's a good way for everyone to be able to know like who we have and sort of the strengths that we have across different offices. And it's always, like I said, it's connected to that directory. So we do have what we call an E to E profile, which I guess in you could say it's the same thing, but it's helpful for if you have a specific project and you need someone who's, has experience in hazmat, and, you're looking for someone on the West Coast, you can sort of filter it by state and location and all that stuff. So it's pretty helpful.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's exactly what I was curious about. Yeah, I asked Eileen to help me find something where we could do an online portal too. I heard I've never come across it, but there was a company that I think I read on the Business Insider, and they have employee invention forms. Of course, it probably wouldn't apply to our industry, but it was kind of unique where, if they invent something, it's the property of the company and not of theirs. Anybody doing non-competes with their paperwork?
They're illegal in DC now.
Yeah.
They're
Cracking
falling
down.
out of favor. Yep.
Washington's cracking down too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share a little preview of the checklist that everyone's going to receive? Because I feel like that might help us see if there's anything that we have missed in our conversation here. So this is the checklist that you're all going to get a copy of.
You know what? I'm gonna
And
drop in the chat box for everyone.
oh,
too.
great, thank you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of steps, right? That first one is create the new hire prep check. Notify director of finance, bookkeeper, etc. The IT tasks I mentioned are many. We won't go over all of them. I have a little template in here that you can use to welcome new people to the team. Anything in red, you can just fill in. So welcome email to the team.
Yeah.
Add them to all the stuff, add them to calendars, project calendars, office calendars, etc. Set up their payroll account. Somebody dropped in the chat about e-verify. You have to notify the state of a new hire unless your payroll company does it. We talked about that welcome packet already. Oh, here's another one we didn't mention is the buddy and the mentor. I think these are so helpful when you have new people come on board. So these are people who are existing already employees of the company. The idea with a buddy is that this person is somebody who is at the similar level of the new hire, preferably somebody who sits near them, right next to them, or really close to them, who they can ask any kind of question like, hey, I forgot how to use the copier. Where's the bathroom? Where should I go for lunch? Like somebody they can feel comfortable asking questions and not be embarrassed that they forgot the most basic thing. Where, you know, if it was somebody who was more senior person, they might feel a little bit intimidated to do that. And then the mentor is somebody who is more senior with the company. And it could even be in a different department if you have multiple departments within your firm. This is somebody who they would meet both these people on the first day. And then I love for them to connect monthly for the first 6 months or so, and then about quarterly after that, just to kind of get a pulse on like, how are you doing? What do you think about the company? Are there new ideas that you can bring in? And just get that communication going from top to bottom throughout the company. And the buddy, I suggest that that person take the new hire to lunch on their second day. Usually I do a team lunch to welcome the new person on their first day. So the second day, the buddy takes them out into the area and says like, okay, you know, these are the good sandwich places. Here's where everybody likes to go for coffee. You know, just kind of show them the neighborhood of the office space. Somebody else mentioned in the chat also setting up key fobs, door codes, if you have any kind of special like lock app, anything like that. Obviously setting up their workspace, phones and phone numbers. Somebody's got to update the contact list and the seating chart, etc. And then order the lunch, maybe get a little welcome card. One of the most welcoming places I ever started a job. The previous job I walked in and there were cleaning supplies on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And I did not feel so welcome. It was like, here's your desk, you can clean it off. The next job that I had, I walked in on my first day and there was a card, a handwritten welcome to the team. It was a very small team, but within a huge company, big multi-million-dollar international company. And my team had written welcome. There was a bouquet of flowers and my business cards were already printed and they were sitting on my desk. It was like
that is amazing.
Night and day. And I felt like, wow, these people really want me to be here. They're excited that I'm here. They're prepared. They have their stuff together. They even had time to get my business cards printed. You know, this wasn't just like, oh yeah, somebody new starting, let's throw her in the corner. You know, I really felt like this was going to be an awesome experience. So with that, do you want to speak a little bit, Brittany, about the first day?
Yeah, no, I think you had a nice
Great,
segue into that. So that's amazing. And I think you and I talked about it and mentioned it, but it's really the first day, the first week, and really the first quarter are the most critical. It really is make or break in terms of retention, of long-term success, performance, like Eileen said, just the difference of, you know, them feeling like they have a purpose and they understand their why and that they're wanted there. And everyone needs a purpose, and to give them purpose. You need to be around to train them. You need to be around for them when they have questions. You need to be around for them when they're feeling lost. And so this is why this is so critical, especially the first week. And just on your end or their PMs, you're helping them settle into the company and understand why the company's around, what their new daily flows are going to be. It's going to probably be different from what they just left, their new role. Trying to just explain their obligations in a clear and simple way so that they know the when, the why, the how of what they're going to do, and connect that to the bigger picture, right? That's why when you're meeting with the team and doing these meet and greets and get to know you outings, like they'll understand their role and how it correlates with all the other team members. So for this section, we've kind of broken it down to a couple categories of, there's still paperwork, right? Training manuals, IT continued with that because they should do some IT training too and sit with them too. They're part of the team. Programs, time tracking, and marketing. So those are kind of the big categories on that checklist, and in this discussion, kind of the questions tailored around it. So we'll split this. But I was just curious, Carrie, for you for sure, of kind of what the process of shadowing looks like in your firm. Do you guys create a schedule? Who are they shadowing with? And what does that look like?
That depends. Most of the time, we try to have a plan ahead of time so that we know what team they're going to be assigned to. And so then I generally spend the first half of the day with the orientation stuff. And then after lunch, often they'll just get turned over to the project team. And that's when they do the kickoff meeting and whatnot. On occasion, that gets messed up. Sometimes they're pulled into a project team meeting at 10 o'clock on their first day and don't know anybody, and that's just how it goes. Sometimes it's not till day 2 or 3 that things actually kind of get clicking. We don't have an official mentorship program, so it's more about getting them introduced to the team, and then we have a very friendly group, so they're pretty good about just saying, hey, new person, why don't you come to lunch with us? So that works pretty well for our culture.
Amazing. We're gonna start calling on people, so
Yeah. Do other people do a new hire lunch on the first day, or like what other kinds of social things do you do to introduce them to the whole team?
There's definitely the first lunch takeout on the first day.
Okay.
I think they're paired with someone in your disciplines to get to know each other.
Yeah.
But I am far from being involved in onboarding. So it's really nice to see what others are going through, just to be have someone prepared on the first day, all that seen in the background.
Yeah. And I would say it takes about 2 weeks notice if to really get it all together. It can be done in shorter time, but 2 weeks is about the right length of time to pull all the different things together.
So,
what about the employee handbook? Is that something that you go over in person
yeah.
with the new hire? Or are there specific pieces of that you pull out and you go over with them? Because I know those things can be 100 pages long.
I'll just jump in before
Yeah,
Brittany calls
please.
on me.
I
I sit with each person. That's a one-on-one. I sit with them and I skim every single page. I go through every single page and I skim it and hit a few high points, things like we need these tax forms, or here's our dress code, or I'll hit a few of the important things, but every person, every page, so that they can ask questions or just kind of have a general gist of how it's laid out before I have them read it on their own.
That's great. How long does it take you to go through them?
Oh, I've got it down pretty good and I talk fast. So
Okay.
I want to say that part's probably about 20 minutes to a half an hour.
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you do got it down. That's
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah. It's like you said, hitting the high points.
Amazing.
Boom, boom, boom. That's great.
Um,
I love that because, people have to sign that employee handbook thing, but it's kind of like those end user license agreements you see on software. It's like you check the box and you never actually read it. So I love that you go through it with the person. I think that's a great strategy because you know you have their attention and they're at least aware that there are salient points that you have mentioned. Love that. That's
I'm
great.
curious, we're kind of talking with the assumption that this is in-person new hire. So what about the remote world, right? So remote world, when we're talking about the manual, the remote world, when we can't do lunch together, what are we doing to be creative to just try to include people when they're fully remote? Gretchen, Carol, Annie.
We don't have any fully remote employees. So we did do some hiring during the pandemic, and that was a little more difficult. Reminded me a little bit of drug deals. I'd meet them in the parking lot and I'd give them a laptop and they'd get in their car and they'd leave.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it was a little bit awkward. And
Oh, that's funny.
thankfully, those people were of a personality type that they really helped us with that. They weren't passive about, interacting with their team or finding things out. But yeah, it was not easy, and I definitely prefer. And sometimes, even though we did have them come in the office because it was just me and a couple people, and so we could, have a small group and still do some of the things face to face. But yeah, we relied a lot more, and thankfully, it's not something that we are continuing to do because it was difficult.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Anybody else have remote strategies?
I know some people have gone because we hire in California, so we'll tend to bring them down once for the interview phase, and then we'll bring them to the office for the first week. But if take care of the I-9 and all that. But there's been some situations where we've like sent gift cards or ordered DoorDash and sent it to them. Like if it's their birthday, I'll send something through DoorDash if they're in California. Kind of go that route.
It's a great point too. There are so many delivery services now that have just exploded because of the pandemic. I remember even doing a happy hour with one team that I was working with where we ordered specialty cocktails and they were delivered. There was like a little box that came with all the parts that you needed. It had little tiny airline sized bottles of things. And so everybody got the box the day of, and then we had a 5 o'clock Zoom happy hour and everybody mixed their cocktail. And it was really fun because we were all doing the same thing and going through that same experience. So it was a small team, it would be hard to do with 20 people, but that was great. Another piece that I've helped with as I consult with different firms is some of my clients hire somebody that comes into their office, and then I do the training in terms of the operations manual and the process and the overall workflow. And I just do that remotely. And whenever they have a new hire, they call me and they say, "Hey, Eileen, I have somebody new. They're going to start in 2 weeks. Can we set up the onboarding with you so you can do their training?" So they do some of the training in the office of, tour of the office, where's the kitchen, who are the people that they're working with day to day. I don't even work on their team full time, but because I wrote the operations manual for the firm, I know it inside and out. So I can go over that with them on Zoom. And I also go over during that call or on a subsequent call, the process for employee evaluations. So I think that's another switching topics a little bit here, but I think it's important when people start on their first day that they know what they're going to be evaluated on in the future, so that it's not a surprise when they get to 30, 60, 90 days or a year in, that like, oh, well, my job description said this. I didn't realize you were going to be looking at this other component, so I always like to give people actual blank copies of the eval forms so that they know, starting from today, these are the things that are really important to our company. It's really important to us that you're looking at these different aspects besides your technical expertise, these other elements that are important in terms of team building, client relationships, personal goals and career growth as well.
No, I love that you mentioned that, because it's kind of goes back to onboarding starts before you hire them, right? Like we've talked about, we in our offer letter, we outline like what does success look like? What is your target utilization for this role? And even some of them we've gone and said, this is how it's weighted. Your job is 75% field reports. So 75% of your bonus is contingent on these getting out in 48 hours because they're illegal documents. Like we have gone and just as much as we can, as early as we can, of like, hey, this is what success looks like. These are the behaviors that we expect. And so yeah, that's like you said, it starts long before they sign the offer letter, because you have to know what that looks like for the firm. Yeah.
The other thing I think is important on that first week, as you're showing here, is that it's not just day one, that there is hopefully an agenda for that person for their whole first week, and some kind of a training plan that's going to continue beyond that first week. So day one is probably lots of paperwork, a bunch of computer stuff, getting signed into things. Oh, Teresa, thank you for sharing this sample first day agenda. I love that. Time frames, etc. That's awesome. And I love to plan out some of the other training pieces throughout the rest of the week, so that the person already has a couple of building blocks into their week, and they're not also getting bombarded with everything on the first day or 2 days, because let's face it, it's a fire hose of information. There's just no way to retain everything when everything is brand new. So it's nice to space it out. And I always love to have the training split up as well, so that they're not just listening to one person tell them everything. I try to get them to each have one-on-one time with multiple people throughout their department, or even throughout the company, if that's possible.
I love that you brought that up, because I was going to ask about that. Kind of looks like Teresa does it in hers, but I was curious, what is everybody's strategy with training? I tend to do like kind of like a time blocking, where like the first half of the day is like the shadow and just the interaction with people, and then the second half is like, okay, you can spend time on training, half of it on a manual, and then maybe half of them you're reading field reports or you're looking at drawings. Like, does anybody have strategy for the first week and kind of how they lay it out? Nobody? No. Yeah.
Jumping right in.
Yeah, no worries, just curious.
We usually have it arranged with the buddy and the mentor. So after that, this first day orientation actually spills over the second day, for sure. So after that, then they're handed over to their buddy and the mentor, and they do have their own agenda as to where to start what, and they take it from there.
Couldn't agree more.
Love that.
Very much.
Okay. And what about goal setting for the new hires? Is anybody sitting down with those folks during their first week or maybe in their first month and saying, these are your goals, or developing what their goals are for that first 90 days? Or longer?
Question. I'll jump in. So we do. So we have a list of goals per role. And so we will have a 30-day, the 30 to 90s are pretty much the same. And then so we do monthly check-ins, and then we revisit the goals, but we co-create them together with the new hire. And so we'll ask them what they think. Is there any that aren't on there that they like, any professional development? So we co-create and then we track them together. And then usually the PM's in on those meetings, and then it will go into their file. We'll do like a recap and document it and put it in their employee file. But every meeting we're bringing that and we're like, okay, we could accomplish this. Okay, you're coming up on a year. You should probably be at this point. And that's, so we have it per role too. And then we have just universal goals. So
Right, love that.
what are you seeing, Eileen, in this industry?
A lot of places don't do that goal conversation up front, right? They say, here's your job description, go to town. And then the goal setting oftentimes doesn't really happen until maybe they're at their 90-day review. But I love your strategy of having those conversations right from the beginning, because then it makes those first days the most effective, right? Otherwise, the person might be focusing on something that's not that important to the company or the project because they have misunderstood something about the role.
Right.
I'm just seeing Teresa has shared a document also. This looks awesome. The whole week. Fantastic. That's great. Yeah. And then of course the 90-day review period is key because that is typically when benefits kick in.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that that person is a good fit before that happens, because it's harder and more expensive to get rid of someone after that point. So that 90-day point is key for a lot of firms as well.
Speaking of benefits, anybody have any weird, fun, quirky benefits? I keep seeing pet insurance is now a thing, which I'm trying to get my boss on board for. So what are we offering people beyond the expected benefits? Anybody got anything? Gym memberships, wine subscriptions for Carol, any?
I did work at a firm that had a wine subscription, not per person, but for the whole
No.
office. It was
Shut
great. It was amazing.
That's
And it was
amazing.
actually because we had a kegerator in the office. This was definitely a startup that wanted to have like, you know, the cool kids office. They hired a lot of people right out of college. And I said, you know, I'm not much of a beer person. What about wine of the month? And the following month, a case of wine arrived, and then every few months, 24 bottles. It was amazing.
Hilarious.
Loved it. Ooh, corporate membership with gym. That's great. Love that. Transit benefits are big in
Yeah,
East Coast cities for sure.
that's a good one.
Yep.
Any companies paying for cell phones are, you know what, I guess, yeah, so cell phones, Teresa's, okay.
Plum benefits.
Never heard of that one.
Okay. Oh, I have to connect with them, not just based on the name. Love it.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. Parking, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good
for
stuff.
sure. Great. We could have a whole other conversation about perks.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great.
what
Let's talk a little
about-
bit more. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just curious, Eileen, you brought it up, but welcome gifts, because I love that. What are we doing for welcome gifts or anniversary gifts? I guess could pair with this, birthday gifts. What else are we doing? I'm always looking for ideas. I'm assuming bus passes isn't your response to this question, Carol.
Welcome gifts. Here's a bus pass. Yeah. What other things are people doing besides like water bottles, hats, you know, t-shirts, kind of the same old stuff?
Exactly. I mean, I think food is everybody's love language, so I DoorDash the shit out of everybody's anniversary.
Yeah, you do have to know though, what if they
Yeah.
have certain, well, and you're asking, actually, this is a great point, right? You're asking up front, do they have any allergies? Do they have any food preferences, right?
Exactly.
Which also is a great question. If you're buying lunch for a new hire and you've ordered barbecue and they're vegetarian, like that could be awkward on the first day. So it's a really good question.
You're right. Oh, Gretchen, they make donations to charity.
Oh, I love that.
That is amazing. That is a great way to take care.
Great.
It has been so awesome
Mm-hmm.
because it also gives me just a peek into everybody's particular passion project. I mean, whether it's animals or children or disabilities or whatever. I mean, I just have loved seeing what people care enough to donate to. And I save that information for other things. And yeah, it's just been really well received by the group.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I'm stealing that.
Yeah, that's great. And then Carrie said we recognize major anniversary milestones as part of the annual holiday party. I like that too.
Ooh.
That's nice.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
Anybody have any vendors they recommend in terms of new hire swag or anything like that? For anybody who is not doing it but wants to.
We always use Deborah's husband. Give Kevin the business.
That's
He
perfect.
doesn't charge tax.
Does he have a website? Put it in the chat. We'll
Yeah,
sign up.
you should
Yeah.
put his contact information in there.
Yeah, I will.
Awesome. Anybody do any team building events the first week? I mean, I've heard a couple people like they do. There was one company who said they do a dance party on the Friday that the new hire starts, and they'll just do a little dance party. I don't know how I feel about that, but
Initiations are frowned upon, but we still do a first Friday beer run initiation.
oh,
Most of the time, we'll send the new person out to buy the beer for Beer Friday.
Oh,
For their first
that's
week.
the initiation.
Yeah, I know. Probably not super
That's funny.
okay.
oh my
anymore,
gosh,
but, it's always amusing.
Yeah, but that's hilarious.
that
would
is
do that.
that is
You know?
really funny.
I give them some cash and we send them out into the market and we're like, go buy us beer. And
Oh, at least they don't have to pay for it, right? You're not asking them to pay. Buy for the office.
No,
Oh
we
my
give them money
gosh.
for it, but it's always amusing to see what they come back with because they don't know us yet, so they don't
Oh.
know everybody's beer
Oh,
preferences. So
right.
we've had some real misses, but people are really good natured about it. So,
That's funny.
anyway.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love it. I love it.
That's great.
That is
Thank you,
fun.
Jennifer, for sharing that. I'll definitely look up dkpromotionscolorado.com for sure.
And be sure you
That's
mention
great.
SDA.
Okay, excellent,
Perfect.
excellent.
Uh,
Brittany, in terms of social things first week, something that I've shared that's been fun is doing icebreaker questions, but sort of a different twist on it. So the way that I like to do it is the new person, so you get this group of people in the room, however many, and each person you go around, picks a number, and then I just look online, icebreaker questions, and they say pick a number between 1 and 100. I go to question 34. I ask that question. The person who selected the number has to answer it first. And then everyone has to answer the question, and then the new person answers. So they're not on the spot the whole time, and they're getting to know the rest of the team. And that's been really fun. And also I've learned some hilarious things about people that way. It's been fun. But I like that. I like that twist on it rather than putting them in the hot seat on their first day.
I love that. Teresa says they do anniversary gifts, $1,500 after 15 years, 2,500 after 25. And she's going on 35. She's working on her 35 year. She's not there yet, but yay.
That's great. That's a nice
That's
bonus.
a good idea.
I like that too. Great. Let's talk a little bit about after the first week, sort of moving forward into those periodic follow-up check-ins. How often are you guys doing those check-ins? We heard kind of 30, 60, 90. Are there other informal check-ins that happen at other timeframes?
We do during their first month, we do weekly.
Okay, weekly. And who do they meet with at that time? Is it just with their supervisor? Or is it a couple different people?
Good question. So their supervisor and the firm president. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're getting high level feedback right up front. That's great.
Exactly.
Love that.
Exactly.
Great. How about everybody else? First 6 weeks, our HR specialist checks in weekly. Great. Okay. Carrie said a lot of informal check-ins after a few days, then weekly. Okay. Great. HR coffee every 6 months, an annual coffee with your choice of principals.
Ooh, I
Love
love that.
It's great. I like doing those informal in-betweens also, because then it doesn't seem scary if somebody gets an email like, hey, can we talk? Right? Like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Right. Doing those informal check-ins then helps things go more smoothly when there is an issue, if there is an issue, to make that conversation a little easier for everybody, I think.
I love that you
Great.
brought that up, because we'll kind of like low key, we'll just like, yay, I'm gonna go out to the mailbox because we're in South Lake Union, so it's beautiful outside. So we'll try to get out of the conference room, and we'll just go to take them to lunch and then kind of hit it during lunch. But trying to take them out, especially during the first couple where it's not so obvious.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
the walk and talk, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
let's go get a coffee, but let's go to the far away place because
Yeah.
it's really nice out today. Let's take a stroll that's going to be like 15 minutes each way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. All right. And then how about training pieces? I mean, there's a lot of training that typically happens right up front, but how do you look at training over a length of time? Like, do you see it ending, they've been trained up on everything in their first month? Or are you looking a little further down the line to drop in some training opportunities for people?
Well, that's a great question.
Depends on the position. Yeah. I think sometimes it depends on the stage of the project also. Like,
Yeah.
maybe, if they're starting on a brand new project, they're going to do a site survey up front, but they don't necessarily need to get trained on CA if they're not working on CA on a project. But we have to remember to train them before they do CA on a project if it's not for 6 months, something like that. Okay, training transitions to development after the first 6 months. Okay, great. Love that. Okay.
What about training manuals and packets? Like, does everybody have? So we have a CAD one, we have one for the site people. So does anybody have formal training resources, or what does that look like? Some people, like, we also have a collection of YouTube videos. So because we're building envelopes, so we'll just put a playlist together. Like, if something comes out and it's a product we're recommending, or it's something, it's stucco because it's California. So we put together a YouTube list so that they can also listen to it while they're driving if they choose, or whatever. And they seem to really like that.
I like that. A little cross to podcasts, basically.
Yeah. We're just
Great.
stealing other people's stuff.
Yeah, no, I love this. Carrie said LinkedIn Learning subscription where she's bookmarked tutorials, specific tutorials. That's great, because LinkedIn Learning is an awesome resource, but it can be kind of like overwhelming because there's so many things. So I love that you've kind of tailored and curated to say, you know what, if you've got like a bit of time, this is the thing you should really focus on. And then, if everybody's watching that same tutorial, that they're all going to do it the same way, right? Because there's lots of ways to do the same kinds of things. Love that. That's great. How about operations manuals? Do all of your firms have an operations manual of some kind?
We do.
Yeah, I hope so. It's my favorite document of them all.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Sure is.
What I heard was really my husband's company, they're naval architects, and they have the way their office is set out, they have a library. And so, like, all the relevant books, so they literally just a library of resources. It's just a couple bookshelves near the kitchen, but they continually stock it. So take it home. If you need a book, let us know, we'll buy it. And they set up some chairs. So, like, they use that as filler work. And then all they ask is that you do a teach back, or you do a little quick write-up about what you learned. You could even send your scribbles. But I thought that was really fun.
That's cool. And then when do they we have bookshelves. I don't know if anybody actually reads them. That's what I was thinking. So when do people do these teach backs? Do you have time like during your weekly team meetings where somebody presents each week, or?
So they do them once a month, and if you don't volunteer, they will volunteer you.
Okay.
And so yeah, they do it at lunch. They buy the firm lunch, and much like you did with us. So they say just pick a topic. If you went to conference, you can do that. If you read something cool, if you interacted with a client and you learned this, whatever it is. And so they rotate, but all the leaders in the firm, mandatory that they do one a year, and that's in their performance review packet. Is did you develop and give teach backs to the firm? And so I thought that was amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
I love getting people to present their work, also to share what
Ooh.
projects they're working on with the firm.
I love
I'm
that.
working with a firm right now that has an intern, and she's a little shy, but she's been doing amazing stuff. And so I said, hey, we have these weekly meetings, people get to present their stuff. I think it would be so cool if you would share with everybody some of the stuff you've been working on, because it's really impressive for this intern level person.
Oh, wow.
And she was just so proud to share what she had done, and it was really great to see. And I think so many people have challenges with public speaking that this really, really helps, especially in the design profession, where as you're growing in your career, you have to be able to present in front of people, or, you can have an amazing design, but it's not, if you can't sell it, it's not going anywhere. So I think having people present as early and often as possible is really helpful. They're with a comfortable group of people, and then bigger and bigger audiences over time.
Yeah. One of the guys at our firm, he used to work for an architect firm in Maryland, and they came on as an expert, usually in construction defects. So they had to be very, very good at not only speaking, but just difficult situations and the opposing side. So they actually hired an attorney to come in and basically red flag them, and you present your case and your defense, and then they bring in this consultant to make it really difficult, oh, have you thought about this, and you're missing this. So that's how they learned, is they brought in an expert.
Okay.
And I was like, that is thinking outside the box.
That's serious.
Yeah, it was, and he's amazing at it now. Go figure, of course.
Great.
Yeah.
I am noticing we are running to the end of our time here. 6 minutes left. So I want to share 2 other resources that are in the same document that you're all going to receive. So there's the new hire prep checklist, which is tab number 1. This is used by the team who already prepared for that new person to start. The second tab is the new employee onboarding. So this, I give a copy to the new person. Everything pretty much is you, right? Due date completed, how long you think is going to take them, and then who the point of contact is for that. If they get stuck on their email or logging into Slack, who do they contact if they have questions about it? And then I put all kinds of links in here to all the different types of paperwork that they have to fill out. And then various types of training, I'll put in here as well, the eval forms and the finances. And then something that we don't like to think about very much, but employee departure happens. And you've done all of these, 235 different steps to get somebody set up in the company, 236. You have to undo all of those things when somebody leaves, right? So I've included a tab here as well that kind of walks you through the steps, like very first thing, lock them out of their email, notify an attorney if there's legal issues, and then start the checklist. Things to do immediately, finance and benefits elements. If you have noticed it's not like a termination where it's immediate, the final week, and then IT, there's lots of IT things to close up, remove licenses, etc. Take their birthday off the office calendar, the sad things, right? But it's easy to forget that all of these things have to be unwound at the end. So you've got 3 bonus gifts here for attending today. Thank you so much for coming. Love talking to you guys all. And thank you to everybody who's dropping these different resources in the chat also. Brittany, is there a way to capture these and share these out with people that are getting shared through the chat?
That's funny. I actually already have them in the notes. So good.
Amazing.
Thank you, my
Okay.
friend.
Love it. Okay.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you guys so much you guys had some great comments and questions, and Eileen, that checklist, everyone's just gonna love it so much. And use her as a resource. She's been so helpful for anything HR and beyond for me. So I can vouch for her. I don't know what I'd do without you at this point.
Thank you.
So, and then we hope to see you mid-August. I think we talked a little bit about the fear of public speaking. So mid-August is a confidence clinic. So we'll conquer that fear there. Hope to see you there. I'm going to stop the recording so everybody can go and have a good day and happy August.
Great.
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Eileen.
guys so much. I would love to hear if anybody got any tips. What was your favorite from
Absolutely.
today?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Drop them in the
perfect.
chat. Okay. All right. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
time.